American Top 40.
Well, the first of our 5 debut songs is already up to number 2 this week on the disco chart. It was arranged and produced by a former French disc jockey whose name is Simon Sisson, who also plays keyboard on this record. And it includes some small bits of some of the biggest Motown songs of the 60s. You're going to remember a lot of them. See how many you can recognize. The group is Shalamar, and their song is Uptown Festival. AT40 originates in Hollywood. Ever wonder how you break into show business? Well, there's no simple answer to that question. Sometimes you do it without having planned for it, like the way singer Jody Watley of the trio Shalamar got her big break. Here's the story Jody told us. When she was a teenager, her family moved from Chicago to Los Angeles, and Jody found herself living in the city where one of her favorite TV shows originated, Don Cornelius's Soul Train. For Jody, getting on Soul Train to dance would have been a dream come true. But it was an impossible dream. The show already had enough dancers and wasn't accepting any new applications. Well, after a few months in L.A., Jody met a Soul Train dancer at a party, and he told her he could get her on the show, but she'd have to sneak in the trunk of his car. Well, for several weeks, that's how she got in to dance on Soul Train, until she was finally found out. But by that time, Jody Watley was recognized as an unofficial regular, and they let her stay. In time, she became one of Soul Train's most popular dancers, and that led to her becoming a member of the group Shalamar on the Soul Train label. This week, the 3 members of Shalamar, Jody Watley, along with Jeffrey Daniels, the fellow who used to sneak her into Soul Train, and Howard Hewitt, debut at number 37 with their latest hit. Here's Dead Giveaway.
Number 35.
Here's the number 1 soul song in the land. It's by Jody Watley, and if Jody seems familiar, it's because she used to be in the trio called Shalamar. The last couple of years, Jody's been in England establishing herself as a solo singer, now making her solo debut back home in the USA. Here she is at number 35 with Looking for a New Love.
Casey's Top 40.
I'm Casey Kasem. Well, now we're up to the latest hit by a woman who got her first taste of show business when she was only 8 years old, thanks to the star known as Mr. Excitement. Here's the story. Singer Jody Watley grew up in a musical family. Her father was a traveling evangelist and host of a gospel radio show in Chicago. Her mother played piano and sang in the show's choir. And one of the most frequent guests on the program was Jody's godfather, the superstar known as Mr. Excitement, Mr. Delightment, the legendary Jackie Wilson. Now, Jackie was known for such great hits as Lonely Teardrops and Higher, just to mention a couple of the many he had. And he was also a wonderful performer with some of the greatest moves ever, moves that inspired other artists, including his goddaughter, dancer and singer Jody Watley. Well, one memorable day, Jody and her family were watching Jackie do his show. Jody recalls, quote, "He was great. He was really shaking it up. And suddenly he ran over to the side of the stage and pulled me up there with him. I was probably 8 years old at the time. I guess my first reaction should have been to freeze in front of all those people. But not me. I just let go, singing and dancing with him. I loved it. After that, I was stuck for life." Well, that was the beginning of Jody Watley's career, and she says she's dedicated much of what she's done in that career to the late Jackie Wilson, who died of a stroke 5 years ago. This week, Jody climbed 6 notches to number 12 with her latest Top 40 hit, Real Love.
Casey's Top 40.
I'm Casey Kasem. The great passions in Jody Watley's life are music, modeling, and soap operas. Jody told us, "I'm a real soap opera addict. I've been watching them since 7th grade. When I'm away from home, my friends send me videotapes. I can't do anything until I see my soaps."
American Top 40.
Making another hit trip to the top of the Billboard chart, I'm Shadoe Stevens, and this is American Top 40. And now we're up to the woman who says that leaving the music business was the best thing she ever did for her music career. That's what 30-year-old Jody Watley told us. 10 years ago, Jody got her start in Los Angeles, and she was a member of a pop and soul trio called Shalamar. But Jody had a hard time in Shalamar. She felt like a puppet. Management told her exactly what to do, and to her, what they wanted her to do wasn't very challenging. So Jody got frustrated, and she left the group. She wanted out of music completely. In 1983, Jody had a baby girl, and then she and her newborn daughter left Los Angeles for the UK. Jody said, "I moved to England basically to get away, but also to get a fresher perspective, experience a different culture." Well, Jody also experienced a new career. She became a model. With her exotic looks and svelte figure, it was just what European fashion magazines wanted. She said, "I've always loved fashion, so between England and Paris, I did a lot of modeling. I learned the importance of lighting and things like that, things that a singer should know. You are a kind of a model because you do album covers and photo sessions. So the more you know, the better it is for you as an artist." Well, Jody's new modeling career built up her confidence to jump back into the music business. She got used to being in the spotlight solo instead of in a group. And for the first time, she was writing songs on her own. Jody says it was a brand new start. Quote, "England brought it all out. It taught me a lot, and it was a perfect place for me to be." That was 3 years ago. Today, Jody Watley's a solo star. She took her current hit up to number 2, and now number 32.
Casey's Top 40.
I'm Mark Elliott, sitting in for Casey Kasem. Now, we're up to the latest hit for Jody Watley, a song called Friends. Based on the title, you'd think this was another upbeat song about the joys of friendship, like "That's what friends are for," or "Thank you for being a friend." But this Friends is about a whole different type of friendship. Jody told us, quote, "It's not an overly optimistic song about how great friends are. What I wanted was a more realistic view of what people are really like. I've had friends who've done some very bad things to me. They've lied, they've cheated, and been deceitful. They've been jealous and envious. I've had so-called friends who try to hold me back and who steal my boyfriend away. Those are the things," says Jody, "that real people run into in the real world. I wanted to do a song that I could relate to because it's about things I've been through." Jody's view of friendship has taken her to number 1 on the Black Chart and climbs 6 notches to number 30 on our survey. Here's Jody with Friends.
Casey's Top 40.
I'm Mark Elliott for the vacationing Casey Kasem. Now, we're up to the story of how Jody Watley's been standing out in the crowd all her life, even before anyone knew her name. The first time Jody was picked out of the crowd was at a concert by the legendary R&B singer Jackie Wilson. Jody was just 8 years old. She says, quote, "I was standing on the side of the stage watching the show, and Jackie just pulled me out there and we danced together." Just a year later, Jody got picked out of the crowd again, this time by soul singer Joe Tex, who had a top 10 hit called Skinny Legs and All. Joe was holding a Miss Skinny Legs contest, and Jody was spotted in the audience wearing a miniskirt. She was called on stage and wound up winning the contest. A few years later, a guy who'd seen Jody in a crowd at church approached her after the service and invited her to dance with him on TV's Soul Train. This young man had never even seen Jody dance. He just liked the way she looked. Well, Jody became a regular on Soul Train, and after 2 years, established herself as one of the show's most popular dancers. That's when she got picked out of the crowd yet again. The show's host, Don Cornelius, chose Jody for a group he was putting together. Don says someone whispered to him that Jody couldn't sing. But Don says he'd heard that her mother was a gospel singer. He says, quote, "I had some cockamamie idea that there must be some kind of singing in her genes." Well, that cockamamie idea convinced Don, and he asked Jody to join his group, a group called Shalamar that went on to score 3 top 40 hits. When Jody eventually left Shalamar, she went on to even greater success as a solo artist. Standing out from the crowd all her life had helped make Jody a star. And Jody continues to stand out with 5 top 40 hits as a solo artist to her credit. This week, she's at number 26 with her latest, Friends.
Casey's Top 40.
For Casey Kasem, I'm Mark Elliott, and these are the most popular songs in the USA. Now, we're up to a woman who was voted Best Dancer by her high school class. She figured that with an honor like that to her credit, she'd be able to write her own ticket. But when she showed up at the Soul Train TV show in Los Angeles with her high school yearbook under her arm, she found out that being the best in your school wasn't enough. Not by a long shot. The people at Soul Train told her there was a big waiting list for dancers, and they said that lots of the people on the list had credits as good as hers, or better. Now, a lot of teenagers would have given up at that point, but not her. She struck up a friendship with one of the show's regulars and started sneaking into the set with him. Once she got in, she did everything she could to get herself noticed. She says, quote, "I'd put things in my hair. I'd dress like nobody else. I'd dance with feathers and fans. I'd use robot moves. And it worked. Eventually, the powers that be at Soul Train took note and asked her to become a regular. And the same spunk that got her named Best Dancer by her high school made Jody Watley one of the most popular performers on Soul Train. In the years since then, that drive and determination have made her a top singing star as well. This week, Jody's slow dances up 4 notches to number 23 with her latest hit, the third top 40 from her album Larger Than Life. Here's Everything. That's the winner of the 1987 Grammy Award for Best New Artist, Jody Watley, moving up 4 notches to number 23 with Everything.
Number 5.
Moving up a notch this week is that singer who as a child played in front of the mirror imitating the Beatles and Diana Ross, Jody Watley.
Casey's Top 40.
I'm Mark Elliott in for Casey. Now, we're up to the current smash for a woman who spent 2 years living in England. 2 years during which, without fail, she'd receive a weekly care package of videotapes. It all began back in 1984 when Jody Watley's former group Shalamar decided to call it quits. Jody wanted to launch a solo career, but she thought she needed a change of scenery. So she moved to London, where the music seemed fresh and new and everything was exotic. Jody says she loved living in London with all the trendy clubs and exciting people. She got used to everything, even having tea every afternoon and not being able to find really good pizza. But there was one thing she just couldn't adjust to, and that was being away from her beloved soaps. You see, like a lot of people, Jody is a soap opera addict, and there were 6 soaps she never ever missed when she was living in the States. Well, the first few weeks in London were a struggle. Jody tried desperately to live without finding out who was doing what to whom and why. But after a while, she began to crack. She made an emergency phone call home, asking her folks to please videotape her favorite soaps and ship them to her regularly. And that's why, instead of getting care packages filled with cookies and cakes every week without fail for 2 whole years, Jody got a box of videotapes in the mail. She told us, quote, "What could I do? I've been watching all my children since I was in the 7th grade. I can't do anything until I've seen my soaps every day." Well, these days, Jody's back in America where she can watch her soaps as they unfold.
The hit from coast to coast.
So is there anything you're afraid to do? Jody Watley says she's afraid of one thing, bungee jumping. She said she'd never do that. But musically, she says she's fearless, and that makes for an interesting career. Her 9th top 40 hit, the 7th of her solo career, is holding at number 16. Jody Watley, I'm the one you need.
American Top 40.
It's an AT40 special, the year's top 100 hits, and we're at number 84, and it's by Jody Watley. It's a pretty straightforward song, and here's what she told us about it.
A lot of times you're in a situation, you're in a relationship, and you go through the changes, the compromises, the battles back and forth, sometimes the infidelities, but everybody thinks that I'm the best thing that ever happened to you.
American Top 40.